Today I'm adding one of the biggest expansions to a city I've ever done. I also add some crazy infrastructure in hopes of supporting all this new stuff, including some wacky tram networks. So if you're excited about this, I hope you'll consider hitting the like button, adding a good vibey comment, and subscribing if you haven't already. With all the YouTube lingo aside, let's dive in. Alright, so we're actually going to start by fixing a few annoying issues here in Zeeburg, some of which might also plague your cities. The first one being a major ongoing crime wave here in the city, moving out to the industrial area of Livonia. Yeah, multiple business owners are reporting theft of really expensive equipment and whatnot. It's even spread to Zeeburg rail yard. And I find this a little odd because I am paying a literal fortune to keep the Zeeburg police headquarters in action. But there's no action here. When I complained about this in a previous episode, some of you suggested that they might just be on strike. Which could very well be the case, but it's just a little odd because while they are striking, the officers of the Old Town police station is quite clearly working overtime in an attempt to keep this crime wave at bay. So yeah, I kind of knew something fishy was going on, and I think I've figured it out by now. It's this road. So this is a road I configured with Road Builder, and the issue here is that my otherwise nice protected bike lanes, utilizing these 2-meter wide medians as protection, they are essentially blocking any police cars from entering or exiting the police headquarters. Which I guess is fairly realistic after all. It does mean I'll just be pausing this road to do a tiny bit of reconfiguration. But we can solve a few other traffic problems while we do this. So grabbing Road Builder, we're going to grab this segment and say use as template to create an entirely new one, because I would like to use this segment at places where I don't necessarily need service vehicles to exit and enter. So use as template, the main issue here is the 2-meter wide medians protecting the bike lanes. The cool thing here is that we can pretty much just swap these two places in so that the tram tracks are protected instead. And yes, as I do that, I will also make sure that it's dedicated tram tracks. Someone has commented a couple of times now that they probably should be dedicated to facilitate, or rather incentivize the usage of the trams, and I fully agree. This stretch of road does get pretty busy, so having the trams kind of glide through the traffic should be a good incentive to actually get out of your car and on board. So we'll just get all that fixed in one go. And the nice thing here is we don't need to do any further configuration because the road is the same width. We basically just moved the medians a bit further inwards. So I'll need a proper name. I always try to name these somewhat because I get lost in translation when it's just a copy of, a copy of, a copy of. So this seems to work. What we'll do now is click once more and say place more, just to make sure that we're covering the full stretch in front of the police station and probably in front of the hospital as well. Now this fella is spawning ambulances, but not a lot. So yeah, I think the issue is affecting the hospital as well. So I just got the full stretch mapped out. While this change is obviously great for the tram traffic, it is going to lead to issues in terms of car traffic. Because while it might not be visible currently, because it's technically the middle of the night, these two lanes here gets super busy during rush hour. And yeah, I've reduced them from 3 to 2 lanes now. So we'll do something additional, just kind of fix that. We're going to grab this segment and once again say use as template. Now this one we're going to call, now it's not bike protected anymore. I can get rid of this, which I should have done at the other one as well. But this is not a 6-laner either, but it's going to be. It's currently a 4-laner, but it's going to be turned in. This is all very confusing. What I am just trying to do is add a couple of additional lanes to turn right to make sure that there is sufficient capacity here for future traffic loads. Yeah, that's it. So we'll just make sure that the direction is okay. We'll get another car lane added. Like this, and it's now a 6-laner, but it's probably a 4+2 lane divided road with trams. But yeah, this is the naming I'll get, and that's gonna have to do. We'll go for upgrading here without snapping, just so that we can make sure that the top aligned to the police station is absolutely centered. And then I'm just going to adjust the surface here so that it doesn't crop over the additional lanes. Oh yeah, I should have just extended this node a little bit with manipulation mode before I did the surface configuration, but I'll fix it off camera again. What I'm doing here, as you can see, is I'm just dragging out this node a bit so that the turn here, the transition to the 4-lane track, is just a little smoother. We'll add a nice grassy median to these sections where we don't have any tram stops. We've got one down here, and that looks pretty good. Just about ready to hit play and see the magic unfold. As we should. Yeah, we finally get some police cruisers on duty from the police headquarters. I'm kinda tempted to add, well, at least this upgrade, this investigation unit, which does add 4 extra patrol cars and 4 extra in terms of jail capacity. Don't think we need the administrative wing quite yet, although it's a very nice addition. Also, you may have noticed that this is a new surface, or a new surface layout at least, if you're a regular of the series. And this is just one of many. I've pretty much had a little tour around the city, adding some more interesting surfaces here and there, because I kind of feel like I utilize surfaces too little, to be honest. I've done a bit of work here as well, the tram crossing, some of the sidewalks, just to kind of add a bit of character. And I guess I've kind of had this issue where it's been like an all or nothing thing for me in terms of the sidewalks. Like if I start mapping out, if I start overlaying some of the sidewalks with surfaces, I would feel inclined to do it on every single sidewalk throughout the city, which would destroy me and my mental stability. But I don't have to do that. I mean, just doing stuff like this as a bit of detailing adds a ton of character. So I think I'm gonna do a bit more of that moving forward. Moving on to the next issue. Where are my taxis? There's not a single taxi in Zeeburg, despite outside connections, but more importantly, despite an actual upgraded taxi depot. They're just sitting here. Yeah, so shout out to Sunny Scunny, fellow YouTuber, for a word of advice. Unless I place down taxi stands, I will need the dispatch center upgrade. It even says so. Anyways, getting that added, it is going to be a minute or two, and we'll have 35 taxis en route. Yeah, I couldn't help adding just a few additional details around this major lot here. It was a little barren before, but as expected, 35 taxis now out on duty, earning a good money. And in terms of the crime situation, well, the notifications are still here, but having a deeper look, it seems like police is on scene, securing it and securing evidence as well maybe. And statistically, let's go for crime rate. This is the point in time where I fixed the road fronting the police headquarters, and there's at least been a pretty remarkable drop ever since. Alright, let's move on to the meat and potatoes of today's episode, which is going to be this massive lot here right behind the historic train station. Now, the architecture and the vibe here is going to be very reminiscent of Karlsbridge. So we've got this turn of the 20th century German, Central European, even Danish-inspired architecture. Maybe slightly younger, I think, if I can choose some of the buildings that just look a little less old, such as these ones, which I think might be from the 40s and onwards. Then I'll choose some of those as well. But it's going to have the same vibe, but I think we need a few infrastructure upgrades to support such a sprawling area, because the population count here can get pretty high, just using Karlsbridge as an example again statistically. It's home to more than 4,000 people and 800 jobs, which isn't too bad, but I do expect the job count out here to be lower, while the residential count might potentially be higher. Of course, all these people need to get to work, so where could they work? Well, currently the major job hubs are situated on the other end of town, split between the office sector here in the station district and the industrial area of Kesselfeld. Alternatively, you can work in office or industry in Livonia. The only issue is that getting to any of these areas currently would put a ton of strain on this two-lane road moving underneath the train tracks and through Concordia Park. Now you might say, well, we're gonna get this overpass connected. That's going to add another avenue of getting to these parts of town. Which is true, but unless we change up this configuration so that you can easily get onto the bypass, you're effectively trying to funnel people through Old Town, which we don't want. And even if we manage to successfully funnel people from this overpass onto the bypass, that just doesn't feel like the ideal way of getting to Livonia, because we're going to force people through this crossing here, which, I mean, it's not even rush hour and it's already super busy. So while we are going to supply these connections because we need good connectivity with multiple options, I think the much better solution is to expand the highway network, more specifically this segment that coincidentally runs straight through Livonia as an elevated segment. And Livonia is the area of the city with the most jobs. It almost have the same count as the station district and Kesselfeld combined. So what I think we need is to lower this highway so that we have a sunken stretch moving very close to this neighborhood here, allowing for super easy connectivity. That would allow you to get off here, but potentially we need like another connection here by the roundabout so we can feed people directly into this high job count area. This would also enable people to get to the rail yard fairly easy, and I mean, there are plenty of job opportunities out here as well. For the sunken segment, I think I want to utilize this very same 4-lane segment moving underneath the avenue, and then I'm probably going to split this up into 2 individual 2-lane segments, just for, I don't know, a bit of a visual mixture. I would like this segment here to look like a little more, it's not going to be higher capacity because there's going to be the same overall lane count, but it's going to be a higher speed version because of extra separation between the 2 directions. So I'm just going to grab this segment here, and yeah, we're going for no snapping, a quick straight segment at, I think, minus 7.5 meters should be sufficient. Don't want to move too close to this area. I mean, this is a noisy solution after all, but once again, Zeeburg is not my imagination of a perfect city. It's going to have nice and less nice features, and that is going to be the case for its infrastructure solutions as well. There's going to be decisions that, yeah, can leave you kind of head scratching maybe, and decisions that will be all right. So let's continue the sunken segment to, let's see, I gotta think about this. Not my strong suit. To about here, and then we are going to move up to yeah, regular surface level, something like this. So now that we have this in place, I'm just quickly going to pause and get this split up into the 2x2s. So we'll just grab the good old trusty regular parallel mode with the smallest distance between the tracks we can get. No snapping for a start, I think, just to see if we can... Okay, I have to connect over here. That's fine, that's fine. Now that seems to work about as perfect. Oh, look at that. Look at the subtle thickness of that curve. Oh, yes. Anyways, we're gonna get this connection in place and pretty much just kind of replace the existing segment, but I don't mind moving it maybe a bit further. Actually, I do like the location of the existing segment, so I'm pretty much just going to follow that, I think. And I'm going to switch to a straight segment just to get like a fully straight segment moving up here, and I'll get this connection done. So far, so good. But this is where the fun part begins, because I think ideally we would want some form of connectivity directly to this avenue as well. So not just connectivity between the two highways, but also some sort of integration with the avenue. And this is where these afterthoughts, engineering afterthoughts might become more visible. But man, they are fun. I think the first thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna make room for the actual connection here in terms of the lane math, which I will try to some extent to adhere to. So we have a 7-lane async two-way highway segment, which might just be what I actually need for this connection, because we are probably going to connect both of these lanes directly to this segment. So let's just try, that. This will require a bit of reconfiguration of this as well, of course. I wonder if a 5-lane segment is going to do. We'll see. Oh, this is going to require like tweaking like mad. But I think that's all right. I think that's okay. We could potentially have an off-ramp already here. This is going to create a multitude of dangerous situations, but it would probably be fun. And what we do in the name of fun, I'm just gonna try that. Very spontaneous thing. I take no, I'm not accountable for what I'm doing currently. Someone else is all I can say. But what if we had something like this going on? Oh man, wow. Oh wow, that is crazy. I mean, this is going to need a roundabout at the very least, and potentially even more. But I mean, there's an off-ramp right here as well. But hey, there is this part of Livonia, right, which is also a high job count, the office part of it, and this one technically leads not to Livonia as much as it enables you direct access to the rail yard. And actually you don't have like an easy access point, because currently Livonia, as you can probably see, is at a slightly different elevation than the rail yard, and it is of course also kind of segmented by actual rail tracks running through. So I have just kind of justified my action after creating it because I thought it was fun. I hope you buy my sales pitch, because I think I'm keeping this mess. Oh man, we are off to a good start. You guys feeling it? I hope you're feeling it. Otherwise, this is going to be a painful one for you. Yeah, let's grab a 2-lane one-way highway and just get this connection in place. And then, man, I don't know how we get the other connection in place, because we have barely any space on this side of the highway. But that is, yeah, we'll handle each issue as they present themselves. You know, lots of mindfulness at play here. But this connection should be fairly straightforward, and it is. There's a bit of a situation here. I obviously don't want to allow a U-turn, so yeah, you'll have to merge into the lane here, which is a little odd. I don't think they would enjoy that. But yeah, it works, it works. Look at this guy. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I might just have another slightly wacky idea. So Yeah, let's get rid of some of this tree coverage. We are, of course, going to be adding that in later. But the lane we just kind of forcibly merged into an outer lane. Maybe we should just kind of sink that segment into the ground and connect it up. This is going to require a bit of move it magic or rough manipulation rather. So let's see how this one pans out. What I would like to do is thus just make a bit of additional space so that the link can continue but be a lowered segment. Yeah. Just gonna make the space here and then we'll see what happens. Grabbing the good trusty one lane segment. Wait a minute, let's just add, let's see, we'll need to, this one will need a key. This one will need to be an actual elevated segment. And we potentially might need manipulation mode to just kind of manipulate it a little more, but yeah, here goes nothing. Oh, yeah, okay, so we're just pausing. I'm about to mess things up. Let's get a lot of space added. You know? Something like this. Now I know I can drag this one out. We'll just make sure we have a single straight segment added at first, because that is going to make, I think, messing with that massively complex node a little easier with the manipulation mode. And then we need to dive in here, but look at the like the elevation isn't too bad. It's just minus 3%. So that's fantastic. That's really nice. That might just be the confirmation I needed that this is the right thing to do. So I'll get this connection in place. Okay, so far so good. Now hopefully I can just grab this node and kind of drag that out, making sure that we don't have any pillars to interfere with this sunken segment, which we don't. The clearance might even be just about perfect. Now obviously we've got this segment which isn't great, so yeah, let's see how finicky things are gonna get. And you can see the importance of this additional node, which is at pretty much the same height as this node. Otherwise I can just select that and say Control H. This is just going to make it much easier to configure all this. Yeah, I say that, but it's not gonna be easy, just easier. Yeah. Anyways, manipulation mode, here we go. Next up is going to be the final stretches of the highway connectivity before we start focusing on this avenue here. So in this case, I want a good long off-ramp so people can read the actual speed signs and lower their speeds, because it's going to be a pretty sharp turn down here. So about 180, we can kind of bend it a little bit, and then it's going to branch out. And then we'll just grab a regular curve. Actually, continuous tool, of course. Now we're just missing a single connection for full connectivity between the two highways. And this one isn't going to be a direct one, so to speak, because it is going to intersect with the avenue at first, but therefore also provide access from people on the avenue onto the highway here. It's gonna make more sense when I build it, as always. So let's just get some of the lane math in place. Is this enough? Yeah, I think I'm going to do these two segments, but potentially just add another node here and downgrade once more, so that it looks all right. Yoink. And then I think we're just gonna branch out from this node right here as the overpass turns into a regular segment. That should be fine in terms of the pillars and whatnot. So I don't want to add the final ramp from this avenue segment to this highway segment because, I mean, there is going to be better connectivity options. One of them being, I think I might bridge across here as if, yeah, things aren't complex enough. I will need to probably utilize a building of some sort to kind of justify this. I'll explain that in a second, but I think like in terms of infrastructure costs, you would probably just connect this segment up and avoid having to build a bridge or an overpass. But I think I can place like a building complex or something here that would kind of necessitate this connection instead. Let's get to the actual road layout. Now, the first thing I've done is I've just removed the road that went underneath the overpass here because, yeah, technically it didn't go underneath, but kind of just through it. And then I think the next thing we'll be doing is upgrading Valley Street here, the one that moves underneath the train tracks and through Concordia Park, so that we get a higher capacity segment, basically. So we're gonna grab the, I think, just a regular 4-lane road, upgrading from the center and out by deselecting snap to zoning cell length. And then it seems like I've got a broken grid here. Some of the zoning is going to act up. Not that I think I'll be zoning, but I would like to have the grid as intact as possible, because even just adding buildings through Find It and plop the globals is going to be much easier if the grid is actually intact. And I think the main issue here is that this road here is actually at a bit of an off angle, because if I want to maintain the road grid, I have to kind of snap to this side right here and branch out by exactly 90. You can see that we don't have any weird clipping or changes, but this also requires me to just kind of shift this segment a little bit. Or alternatively, I can add in a roundabout, because that kind of just hides some of the like the weird asymmetry in the continuing of the road here. So I think we'll just do that. I think that works out just fine. And I guess we might as well just continue the avenue here so that it intersects with this roundabout. And the issue if I do this is that it's gonna break up the grid a little bit. So what I like to do instead is just bring it as close as possible and then deselect all snapping and just make sure that I'm not at the exact 180-degree angle. Because you can kind of see by the blue highlighting next to the roads which part of it will be impacted. So if I just move to 179, that is not going to affect anything. It's a small thing, but in terms of mapping out, especially if you zone, then it's a very valuable thing to do. Seeing as we're opting for a pretty cookie-cutter grid road layout here, I find that something that really helps make sure it doesn't look too boring, basically, is to utilize plenty of custom road builder roads, because the combination of fully vanilla roads and the grid layout is just, yeah, it's very vanilla looking. So what I think we'll be doing is removing some of these roads, and then instead of having 2-tile wide roads, we'll come up with some 3-tile wide roads instead. So for instance, one example of this is this 24 meters wide, which is exactly 3 tiles wide 2-lane avenue, which we've used throughout other parts of the city. So if I just branch this one out as an example, we'll be able to add some pretty nice trees in the center. We still have 2 lanes of traffic and 2 lanes of parking and pretty wide sidewalks as well. I'll also be making a configuration of this one though. So if I just add, let's add a segment right here and grab good old road builder. Selecting use as template, what I'd like here is to get rid of the 5-meter median in the center and instead being able to allocate like some grassy patches to both of the sidewalks while still having street side parking. So quick math is telling me that I'll need to allocate about 2.5 meters of additional space to each sidewalk to make sure we hit that 24-meter width. So we're just gonna remove this segment and we'll up both of the sidewalks to 7 meters in total. Now this would work, especially if we move in and we add the grassy patches as I planned to, but it's a very wide sidewalk. At least it feels wide, even though some of it is now made up of this grass pitch. So something you can do instead is you can add an empty lane, for instance, in between the parking here and the two car lanes, and just reduce the width of your sidewalk by 1 meter. But I'm actually not gonna do this. I don't mind the wide sidewalks, and I think as long as the grass fields are added, it kind of looks pretty nice. I'm just going to name this a wide suburban road. I guess I'm going for suburban because I should be able to actually remove... Can I remove some markings from the lanes here in the center? I'd kind of hoped to be able to, but maybe that's only possible if it's car only. Yeah. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Actually get rid of the center markings, because it has a more suburban feel by doing that, even though this is not a suburban area. Then I'm going to drop the speed limit to 40. And I'd like to make sure that it's always visible in the toolbar. Something else I think I'll be doing in this area is I'm just gonna map out one additional segment so we have an actual intersection. And then I'm going to use not roundabouts, but probably just a small asphalt cul-de-sac, just to kind of make the crossing a little bigger and the turns a little more smooth. But I think I'm going to add this after I have placed all the buildings, because this does kind of mess up the zoning a little bit. I'm sure it would still work fine with plopped variables, but I can always add this in later with the anarchy enabled, so it doesn't cause any issues. So I think for now we're just keeping it super simple. We'll get that added after we've mapped out the whole thing. And it's going to be, I guess, fairly simple. So I'm just about to jump into that. There's just one more thing we need to kind of figure out for this area. And that is going to be the placement of this wonderful Jacobi Church asset by McWelshman. Now, instead of just placing it at random, which I've done for most of the churches, I'm going to adhere to a bit of knowledge I received from a commenter that I didn't know before, and that's the fact that most, not all, but most churches throughout much of Europe are angled with the back side towards the sun, or rather the east. So let's see where the sun actually rises here in Zeeburg. Somewhere out here. So I guess we're getting pretty close if we're pretty much just adhering to the existing angle of this grid layout here, but then, yeah, just kind of angling it like this, I guess. Yes. And let's just move it a bit further back to create... Actually, let's just place it in the center of these two roads here, so we have a bit of an open square as well. And then we'll just flank the front here with a one of these roads as well. Okay, so I am absolutely not following my initial plan, but I just had another wacky idea. And my intuition tells me that it's usually more fun if I just kind of go with it. What if we get some tram access out here as well? And we create that tram intersection right here and then move underneath Cypress Street and connect directly onto Alley Street, so we can move underneath the train tracks. Doesn't that sound like a complex mess? That is a bit of infrastructurist decision making, if I've ever known it. So yeah, let's do that. Getting rid of the footpaths here. Oh, I don't know how this is gonna work, but it's gonna work. Let's disable all snapping. We make sure we're sticky to the ground. I don't want any weird retaining walls or anything. Then we'll branch off really close here to the station, and I just want to click to get the first node in place, because then we need to lower this segment quite a bit. So actually we should probably turn Cypress Street, this segment, into an elevated segment at first, just like that. Then enable snapping so we can snap to this node as well. Then we'll disable snapping, obviously. we'll click and we will start lowering this down. Oh, this is gonna be so much fun. So I don't think I probably can't make the direct connection. I'll need to just kind of lower it a bit more before I do so. So let's just try to go to about here. And then we'll just raise it to normal height. We'll just check for the last bit here. So that is 7.5%, which I don't actually know. I mean, trams are pretty strong, right? At least we'll assume the ones here in Zeeburg is, and we may be able to make this even more smooth with just a bit of move it magic. But for now, I think we've made it to the roundabout. I mean, at least with just a bit of cleanup so we can actually see how things are looking down here. Okay, so obviously the node here, it's a little wonky, we'll work with that, but I can move this node just a little bit just to make the bridge, or rather the overpass span, just a little wider. I mean, we're getting there, aren't we? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, that's not too bad. Now that is, yeah. So I definitely need clearance for these pillars here. That's for sure, but maybe I can just kind of move them like into the road here, like this, and then I can just hide them to make sure that they don't actually poke through thereabouts. Yeah, that will do. This segment, I know I can lower this a little bit because that was only 5%, a 5% incline. The train people are like, only 5%? Dude, what are you talking about? So yeah, we're just kind of bending physics just a little bit here, but doesn't that look fun? I honestly don't think that looks too bad. Now, the tricky part, I guess, is like an additional segment just so you can kind of bypass this if need be. So that would branch out from this intersection and connect directly. Oh, that is 8%. Yikes. I'm gonna try to place this, then we'll see. I mean, the percentage matters less, it's more about the visuals. Doesn't oh yeah, that's a little rough. Just a little rough, I'd say. I might be able to just kind of smoothen things out just a little bit. Guess that kind of helped. Yeah, I mean, this is looking pretty good. So the important part here is that the trams will need to be able to make a stop here in front of the train station and then move out here. And of course, the same thing when they move back into town. And since they can reverse at this segment, which I'm pretty certain they can, it should work out. Otherwise, we do actually have the loop here in place just in case you need to do like a loopy shenanigan with your tram. Now, the only issue is that it might just be a little too boring just upgrading this avenue with trams. I would like more like dedicated tram segments. And the best approach for achieving the tracks next to the avenue is probably utilizing Road Builder once more. So let's just get a quick straight segment added of the avenue, and then we'll customize this segment and do a little replacement. So let's see. This is going to be a tram 4-lane road, and we're probably going to opt for a width of 32 meters for a perfect 4-tile wide road. So we'll just name it as such. Oh yes, me and my inconsistent naming. At least I name my custom roads. We're gonna add a median in between a sidewalk segment and some of the normal vehicle traffic. I'll just add it to the other side here so that it's a little more easy to visually follow what is going to be upgraded up here. Okay, and then we're going to, this could be tram tracks, I guess, enabled. That doesn't really matter. What we need now is 2 dedicated tram tracks in between the sidewalk and this median. In both directions, of course, something like this. And okay, we'll downgrade this to only allowing buses, so we don't have 4 tram tracks across the street. and the width is actually perfect, 32. Now, interestingly, this still allows cars to potentially park in here. Because they should be able to, I mean, they can't really get here due to the tram tracks, so yeah, it's a little wonky. I'm probably just gonna disallow it. We can bike enable this, and we can bike enable over here to get rid of the parking, so that's all fine. I know it's a little wide. I just want to try to adhere to like the vanilla accepted road widths. That usually just makes stuff a little easier. So let's select place more and upgrade. Now this one is interesting. So I want to make a perfect upgrade for this. And I guess I don't mind actually just opting for, instead of just following this line here, just moving it down just a little bit. Yeah, let's actually just do that and commit to the upgrade on this segment down here. So I don't think it's going to move all the way over here because I have another wacky idea. And that, my friends, is an overpass, which is going to cross above not only this main arterial, but also the highway, and then land somewhere over in this foresty bit so that we can lead some tram tracks out here. Because I think the general theme of Zugwald, which is of course this highly affordable, high density, green space, rich public housing segment, is probably going to continue outwards here in this direction. So having a direct tram connection is probably just a really nice thing. So what I think we'll do is we're gonna delete this as well as this connection. Then we're just gonna grab the regular 4-lane road and we'll try to get this overpass in place. So I need sort of a ramp at first. So I'm just going to have a curvy bit. Move to, let's see, we'll disable snapping. Move to about here, I think. We'll raise that to 7.5. Then an elevated segment, which could potentially also be curvy, actually. I think that looks all right, and we can already start dropping the elevation quite a bit, I think. So something like this, then we'll change it to a ground segment as well. That is not too bad. Slightly wacky, but oh man, this corridor alongside this highway here is just, it's just a bunch of wonderful infrastructure taking place. Just so much fun to work with as well. Oh man. I think this roundabout has kind of done its run its course. I don't think I'll be needing that anyways. I'm just gonna quickly add the regular tram track update to this avenue here, but we might do like a custom avenue of some sort. I don't really want fully dedicated tram tracks because that is going to require me to drop 2 lanes of traffic, and I do expect this to be a pretty high traffic node in the future. Wow, this looks like a mess. Thank you. So yeah, I think this is fine for now, and unfortunately I think this custom road we just made might just be a little too crazy in terms of like an overpass. It's just gonna look way too bulky as well. So I think something like this might just work. And now I'm going to just spend a bit of time mapping out a bit more of this this road grid, and probably see if I can kind of hide the bus depot a little closer to this corner as well. Alright, we've got a bit of a road layout going now. And as you can probably tell, I've just relocated the church about 2 blocks over. It feels like a more central location to this neighborhood. It's a little more fitting, I think. So to share a few thoughts on my ideas behind the road layout, not necessarily everything needs to be rooted in super realism or historical narrative, but I tried to kind of think about my decisions. So I think what I'm imagining is that this large plot of land here used to be some sort of park, kind of separating some of the heavy industrial stuff and rail traffic by the rail yard from this neighborhood. And this obviously made it pretty easy, for the city to just turn this into an infrastructural mess as the city continued to grow and traffic got worse and worse during the 60s and 70s, because you didn't really have to settle any lawsuits or kick people out or demolish their homes. You just had to silence some really loud hippies that didn't want this conversion to take place, which I fully understand. I wouldn't like that either. But that kind of explains the mess right here at least. And then I imagine this avenue has always been like a main connection to the old town. Of course, when the train station and train tracks were laid out, that was no longer a direct connection. Then as the city continued to grow, with more and more demand for additional traffic lanes, this overpass was constructed. And yeah, it resulted in the demolition of some old dilapidated buildings in Concordia. I imagine this area had issues with crime and narcotics during the 70s, so some of the buildings were maybe just, I don't know, being occupied by people, or maybe they're just completely abandoned, whatever. The city kind of just moved through with it. We kind of see that in the architecture as well. Some stuff, some locations that probably housed beautiful old buildings were redeveloped in the 60s and 70s into these ugly ducklings. So yeah, it's a hip, nice area now, but not so much back then. And the same was pretty much the case here. So obviously these two streets used to connect, and there might have been, like, this road used to connect at ground level to Umber Street here. So probably, a few buildings might have been demolished to construct this, but this one was a much easier choice to make this connection here compared to just kind of demolishing through Concordia. As we move a little further north, I imagine I'm going to fill in some of the lots close to the bus depot with some slightly more modern public housing probably. I've just quickly mapped out the district and it's a pretty beefy one, and based on one of your wonderful suggestions, I've named it Neustadt. Well, almost, because it's just a little too in your face German and it's strictly not a German city, so I'm going to kind of bastardize it and name it Neuville instead. But I think thematically naming it something like that, when you look at this well planned out road grid, makes a ton of sense. Neuville is going to need a few service buildings before we have a little chat about the mixture of architecture I intend to fill up this district with. So looking at some of our demands, I am pretty certain, yeah, we need an additional elementary school, that's for sure, one with decent capacity as well. And then I think we might need a small healthcare facility as well, maybe even a high school as well. For the elementary school, we might try out the French themed one. It's got a pretty distinctive roof in terms of design, but maybe it was initially founded as a Latin school or something of the sort. Also, I don't mind a bit of French inspiration in the architecture here. I have a little too little of that probably. But yeah, I think that's gonna work. It's got a capacity of 1000, which is really nice, and an upgrade as well, adding 250 additional capacity. So we're just gonna get that straight away. As for the hospital, which is probably just gonna be a medical clinic, we're not gonna go for anything fancy. The Eastern European themed one is a pretty depressing, slightly brutalist building. So why not place it right next to slightly depressing infrastructure built here during the 70s? I mean, we can imagine this being built at around the same time when all this wonderful park space was just being chopped up. So I think I'll just add it right here, and I'm just gonna add like a quick small alley as a special connection for this one. And I think we can also fit in this waste collection center as well. Just move that real close here. Yank, and we'll get a direct connection going with an alley. Would be nice with a park as well, but seeing as this used to be a massive park, I don't think it's as important within like the urban fabric of Neuville. I think adding a hilly playground on like one of the lots here that is close to this mess here, yeah, like right next to this this lowered highway segment. I mean, the logic being that the building here that was demolished because of this mess maybe could easily be converted into a playground of some sort. Now for an important chat about architecture, I think Neuville is going to be a bit of a mixed bag, sort of like Concordia is. So the majority of it is going to be fairly beautiful, Central Northern European inspired architecture, like what we're seeing right here next to Concordia Park. But there's definitely also going to be some much younger, slightly less impressive infills. There's going to be hints of, decisions made in the 60s and 70s, and there's even going to be some more modern stuff. Probably even a few urban promenades infills or other slightly more modern infills, maybe even from the US Southwest or Northeast packages as well. So it's going to be a fun one. I also plan on adding some just downright ugly stuff, just to kind of showcase some of the decisions made. So like, let's imagine this corner here on Oak Grove Street as this overpass moves across this mess built during the 70s. This might be home to like some sort of mixed use, vanilla European themed stuff that isn't necessarily the most pretty of buildings, but kind of does the job, I guess. Like this one. So some design cues of old have been, implemented, but it's still not quite as detailed or lavishly beautified as some of the older stuff, but it kind of fits the bill. And it does add a bit of variety to this entire build instead of just having the German-themed apartment buildings spammed everywhere. I also think adding a few residential vanilla-themed European blocks might be a fun one. Stuff like this building here. It's not very pretty. Kind of works for what I'm looking for, what I'm also looking for, I should say, in this area. So maybe this is what's actually next to the playground. And some of the vanilla stuff is actually still quite nice looking. The main issue with these zones here were always that it's just kind of all over the place. Like obviously this building here is quite old. At least it's very much pretending to be. Could be located in New York as well. And then, yeah, you've got this cousin here. So it's just kind of all over the place. But of course, if you find it to grab whatever you need, it's perfect. And I guess in this specific situation where I also want stuff that's just not, just not all that pretty and just kind of reeks of weird decisions made sometimes later, it kind of works. It also kind of helps upping the density a bit because some of these buildings are actually really quite significant. And with this being Neuville and like a reimagination of the new city of Zeeburg, at least some investors, some developers, of course, moved in and tried to build their own prestige projects out here. Because there's no more space within the other city limits and within Old Town. The color scheme is usually terrible though, but you can pretty much recolor every bit of these buildings. So that kind of helps and makes it a bit of a non-issue if we get this recolored to something a little nicer like this. Yeah, I don't like the yellow stuff, but that worked out. We can do the very same over here. I mean, that's pretty nice. There should also be a level 5 residential medium density vanilla EU building that is pretty massive. It's this one, and I don't think I've used it before. The use case feels so specific, but I kind of just want to try to use it. out here in Neuville, even though it's a bit of a weird one. I'm gonna try to place it right here next to the train station. We'll need to recolor it a little bit. Once again, this could work in New York as well. It really could, but it's not a bad looking asset. So yeah, if we're trying to give this place a bit of character, I think this fella fits right in. And it's got some weird looking cousins in the mixed use department, but I mean, I think we might be able to utilize a few of them. Let's get this one placed right next to the overpass. Really just trying to use a bunch of different stuff here, just to make sure that it kind of separates itself a little bit from the otherwise German themed spam I'm going to dive into in just a second. As mentioned, I think the modern urban promenades as infills are going to be like the final piece, getting this puzzle all in place and adding the final bit of diversity. But otherwise, it's probably just time to dive in and get a ton of new households going. Let's go. Oh man, I am starting to realize just how ambitious this project was for a single episode. It probably should have been split up a little more. Bringing up the HUD here, yeah, you can probably tell I'm seeing a bit of traffic chaos throughout the city, primarily due to addition of Neuville, but then again, I did aim for about 5,000 new residents and we're approaching 9,000, so the scale just kind of got out of control here. But it also turned into a pretty fun area, like architecturally. I did aim for a bit of an interesting, unique vibe, as I mentioned, probably bending realism just a little bit. But I think it's pretty obvious that as this new city aspect was kind of gripping the city during its economic heydays or economic booms, some investors or property developers really took it upon themselves to leave very distinct, imposing marks on their city. So we've got a bit of inspiration from across the pond even, maybe looking towards, well, it would have been New York, but also Chicago at that point in time. Also very visible on this frontal row facing the train station. someone really looked other places than other European cities to erect this structure here. And it's a bit of an interesting mix. I gotta tell you, it was a fun one. I also just made sure to get some small alleys in underneath this overpass here to really sell the idea of this not being an overpass 50 years ago, but just a regular road. So yeah, I guess these apartments are maybe just a little cheaper, seeing as they're directly facing the overpass and all the traffic. But yeah, you know, big city things and all, that's just kind of what happens in the name of progress. In terms of other interesting additions, we've got this high-rise as well, which looks, yeah, it's a little out of place, but I mean, Zeeburg is really a forward-thinking city in terms of just kind of letting developers do their thing. If it adds to the GDP of the city, I guess you can kind of tell with all the high-rises mixed in with all the old stuff as well. Maybe, I imagine this one was maybe proposed in 2009, so during the like peak of the economic crisis. And at that point in time, you gotta be pragmatic. They're willing to build stuff, which is going to put people to work, and it's gonna pay some additional taxes to the city. So yeah, I mean, go ahead, build your contemporary, slightly boring residential building. And then we've just got a few modern infills in some of these places as well. This area has gentrified pretty rapidly in the last couple of decades. We still have a single surface parking lot, maybe one additional one dotted throughout here, in a place where there used to be an old building that was demolished for whatever reason. Lots of history there, probably. But overall, I think it turned out really nice. You can probably tell I did do a few additional infrastructure investments as well, because the traffic situation here was just completely backed up, and it's starting to look just a little better. There are, however, a few things I would like to change. So I think the location of the waste collection center is probably what I would consider a little too close to the nice area of Neuville. I mean, it's one thing that the residents have to live with all this highway being dumped into what used to be a nice park, but to add a waste collection center, that's just kind of rubbing it in their faces. So we're just going to sort of temporarily, I think, relocate it to this segment as well, so across from this main arterial. And then I think what we'll do instead is we're actually going to just add like a pedestrian path to make sure we have some of this dedicated as actual parkland still, so it's not all bad. So I think in that case I might be able to actually fit in the pedestrian road back here as well. Just kind of create a bit of a swoopy design, add some lawns, lots of beautiful trees and whatnot as a bit of a compensation for, you know, something pretty bad that kind of happened to this area. So yeah, we're just going to kind of move through here with the lovely continuous tool. We'll add a connection here as well. I think we'll add one to this side of the hospital as well. Then using surfaces, we're just gonna make this nicely manicured grass with some beautiful trees. And then I think for this segment, we're going to go really heavy on the spruce trees. They grow really quickly and they're often added as a natural sound barrier. Also, they're green year-round, so they don't have this big transition in volume levels when winter comes around. And I think we're gonna kind of approach this area with like the same mindset, getting rid of this stuff because I don't really want any of the public housing I have planned here. Anyways, especially since the population has like absolutely exploded, so it's not really necessary, I would say. So I'm just gonna upgrade to the nice road that was here before, and we'll get in the tree coverage added here as well. We'll do the same with a pedestrian road as well, just trying to add a bit of a swoopy design, cutting through this area and connecting back up to the road here. Adding the grass surface, a few big old trees, and then kind of have the same look as over here, I guess. So easy to just paint through this with the area bucket tool, getting all of these areas quickly done, including the hospital, I guess. And then I think in terms of the trees added here, it's going to be a classic mixture of some oaks and the a leafy tree as well. Another change I'd like to make is this weird corner here. It just feels a little bit odd, so I think I'd rather just get rid of these segments right here, and probably I'll keep this connection in place, I think, just get that fixed up. But for this particular segment, I just kind of want like a smooth corner segment, and then I'm just gonna quickly manually place some buildings to kind of break away from the grid a little bit and basically just attempt to adhere to you know, the train tracks a little better. So if I can do something like this, I should be able to just quickly hand place some buildings and get back to you. That does look better, doesn't it? Added a few quick trees as well, and got this connected right back up. So I think that's a much more organic solution, which is nice because not everything in Neuville feels all that organic, honestly. Something we also talked about in the early stages of this 24-hour-long episode was adding cul-de-sacs to some of these crossings here. But I think we might even get away with adding like roundabouts. We might even be able to fit in like medium roundabouts because there's so much sidewalk space to tap into. So these have, let's see, medium roundabout with a tree and bushes. This one might be fun because I think these are going to like change the type of tree and bushes, yeah, each time we add it. So that could be fun. Like now this is like the main street cutting in this direction, I feel. So I think I'm not gonna add roundabouts to that, but just wherever we have the smaller streets intersect, like here as well. Not here, but here. And let's see, up here as well. Not this one because this is the main road as well, but we'll add an additional one here. Just kinda trying to adhere to that general rule. How does this all look? I think that kind of works. Once again, so much sidewalk space that none of the corner buildings are kind of clipped into or anything like that. Next up, we're gonna take a look at some of the transportation modes here in Neuville, which is especially important since it turned out to be such a dense, high population area. So I think as a start, we're going to dual upgrade with dedicated bike lanes for this avenue until we reach this segment here. Then we're just going to switch to a single lane on this side, I think, because I don't want to cut too much into the sidewalk over here. And I need stations as well for the tram line. So we'll go down to about here, and we're gonna do the same for this main road cutting through. We're adding the dedicated bike lanes to just one side, basically moving in this direction. And that is going to be until you end up out here. Then we're going to add it as sort of a loop so you can get back to the main avenue right here. I mean, ideally, you would just plaster your entire city with double bicycle lanes if that is what you want to promote. Realistically, I like to just kind of mix it up because few cities actually have that approach. Onwards to the tram tracks. Now, we already have tracks moving out here, which I think are going to be reversible at some stage at least. So I am hopeful that I'll be able to just add a tram stop to, let's see. Yeah, it adds like a reversible segment here, which is really nice. So I think we're just gonna add a tram stop right here, really, before we make the crossing across the overpass. And this needs, I think this needs a new line entirely. So this one's gonna be really interesting. So adding the first stop at 107 Oak Grove Street. Then we'll make sure to add our stop at the historic train station, adding a stop at Deerhurst, moving further down Deerhurst, and then we will stop at the terminal here, the tram parallel station at the modern train station. And of course move all the way back. So I'm really interested to see how the reverse mechanic is gonna work here, because we are very much dependent on that in terms of getting this stop out here to work. So it looks like it's just going to work. Very nice. It is always so exciting to see your public transit in use for the very first time. And it's already carrying 40 passengers, which is pretty nice. And there's quite a few people waiting to get on as well. As it moves further into downtown, and just look at some of the views of Zeeburg we're starting to be able to achieve just due to the sheer scale of the inner city area by now. But it is desperately time now that I get a wrap up on this episode, so I think I'm going to finalize with a quick detailing session of Neuville. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy, just a few decals, surfaces, some trees and bushes where it makes sense, just to kinda, you know, make it a little more finalized. We can always get back here and do more work in the future. And I think I'm going to transition that detailing session directly into the final cinematics. So as always, I want to thank you all for the nice comments and feedback. Thank you for viewing, and if you've got any suggestions for Zeeburg, something you really feel like the city is missing or need, let me know in the comments. I hope to see you all in the next one. Goodbye.